All right, how's it going, guys? This is Brian over here, and it is about 11 p.m. and I'm actually staying at this hotel right here. But I have been driving my Previa while I've been out of town for the last few weeks, and I finally just got kind of tired of seeing a bunch of little things, and I wanted to kind of fix them, which is kind of the reason why I wanted to drive this van, was just to spend some time for a week or two and actually get some stuff done. Now, unfortunately, I haven't really fixed any of the big stuff yet that I had wanted to fix while I had the van with me, but I just kind of knocked out a bunch of little things. It's just really kind of one of those moods where you just kind of, your OCD kind of kicks in, you just want to get stuff done. A couple of these things are actually pretty common Previa issues, including the windshield wipers. That's the problem that we all seem to have, and I was actually able to make these work correctly, so I'll show you that. And then just there's some just little things, probably insignificant to you guys, but to me they're little things because it's things that I notice every single day. Not all of them I'm done with, but regardless, let me just kind of show you what I'm doing. All right, now here we are, like I said, sitting right outside the La Quinta Inn and Suites over here near Hickory. Now, honestly, I've been really loving driving this van for the last little bit. On my last video was when we had the window tint done, and I'm just freaking loving it. Obviously, the front windows I have down right now, but it's made such a huge difference with driving around this van, especially since it's kind of warmed up recently. But the main reason why I've been really enjoying driving the van around is because I can very easily haul my mountain bike, and especially with the window tint, I don't have to worry about leaving the mountain bike, you know, in the van while it sits outside of a hotel, because it just kind of takes that crime of opportunity out of the way where people can't see in and see kind of what's going on in there. But I've been really enjoying getting back out on the mountain bike. I actually started playing with this tonight. I was just doing lots of little things like making sure my cables were zip tied down right, and making some just little adjustments and cleaning the chain and things like that. And then just kind of spiraled from there. So let me kind of show you. Let me see, what did I do first? Oh yeah, so first I came over here and messed with the pressure switch for the door. So every time you open and close the door, obviously you should have your interior lights come on. And this is one of the things that I haven't finished yet, but if you can kind of see here, I guess I could turn the flash on. There we go. Technology. So this little button right here is what kind of depresses when you open up the door. When you open the door, the switch should make contact and the light should come on. And it works perfectly fine on the passenger side, but on the driver's side, it is a little bit finicky. So it is on right now, but if I just kind of adjust this switch a little bit, all I did is just wiggle it, you can see the light turns off. So that means as, you know, the door opens and closes, you can kind of see it does like a strobe effect. Now obviously I have some LEDs in there. That's actually not an issue with this. Now it's probably a little bit easier to see. So all I'm doing is just pushing and turning off this button. Now, right now I have hands off of it, and if I just kind of wiggle it a little bit, I can get that light to come back on and stay on. And of course, it's not going to do it right now. But I originally thought that it was something to do with the ground, because this van has been painted before and there's paint all in here. So I actually took this bolt off and scraped away some of the paint inside there so we had better contact here. But this thing is on there, and there's definitely some exposed metal that it's touching, and it made zero difference. So there's something that's inside of here, which I kind of looked at it. Visually it's okay, but I think it's just something inside here is just worn. You can kind of see there's some little play in the dowel there. So something is just not... Well, actually, let's just go look at the other side. We can compare apples to apples here. Haven't actually done that yet. Yeah, I mean, they feel about the same, but this side definitely seems to work consistently. And obviously the driver's side door is going to get opened 1,000 times more than the passenger side. So that is one thing that I thought I was going to fix pretty easily, but I haven't. But then after I messed around with that, I remembered that I still hadn't quite finished up with my wiper install. Now, for anybody that doesn't have a Previa, you're probably like really confused why having your wipers work correctly is such a big deal. But with the Previas, they have these crazy arms here that have these ridiculous old school screw-on. You can even see here, look how massive this thing is. But it has these screw-on wipers, and you can't just go to the freaking part store and buy like a normal J-hook deal, because it just won't work. And I've heard that there's adapters out there to make them convert to like a newer style, and I picked some up off Amazon, and they just didn't work. There was maybe just had a crappy one, but it just didn't lock into the normal wiper blade. So I returned everything, and I actually ordered OEM Toyota wiper blades, which was kind of stupid because for these really basic, you know, wire frame wipers, I think I spent probably freaking 50 or 60 bucks for these two. So kind of frustrating. But the old wipers were just trashed, and I still need to do this with the rear wiper. But the main issue was because you actually have your washer nozzles integrated into the wiper arms themselves. That's another problem if you go with like any kind of aftermarket where you put like a J-hook adapter or anything, is then you've got to rig up something to do with your washer nozzles. Well, I hadn't quite finished up the install, and I was crossing my fingers that I could do exactly what I ended up doing. But for a while, I had actually tucked these into the hood because I hadn't finished the job. And then about a week or so ago, I got tired of not being able to use them, so I kind of just zip tied them here to the wiper arms. But then, of course, there's no pressure on them, so I figured I was gonna have to fix it eventually. So I actually kept the wipers that came off this, and because I noticed that there was these parts, you can kind of see it here. So right here, let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So right here, and through to right here are these little clips, and you can actually on the insides here and here, those are just kind of held in by pressure, and then this actually has the little clip to it, and there's this little hose that goes in between it, and you can see where the washer hose connects there. So what I was actually able to do was, thankfully the rubber was in good shape, but I was able to just pop off one of the ends, very carefully remove these two plastic things, because obviously it's an old van and plastic things like to break. But I popped those two things out, pulled it out, slid the little tube out, because you actually have to pull it from through the frame. You have to pull it from underneath of there and over the dowel here. So I had to pull all that through, and then I crossed my fingers that these OEM wipers were going to work correctly, and sure enough they did. The spacing was right, they clipped right in just like they should. And then I was able to rehook everything back up, and I actually have fully functioning wiper blades again, which again, for everybody else, nobody cares. But when you own a Previa, this is one of the few complaints that I have about owning these things. And I'm not looking forward to, you know, in like probably 3 months when I'm going to need to replace these again. But at least I know what to do. It just takes a little bit longer, and you're not going to have an AutoZone employee do it. So then the other thing that I did was, and this is minor, but for anybody that's paid attention to my other videos, you might have seen it, but at some point there was some sort of like, I don't know, Bluetooth mic that was stuck up in here. So I pulled all that off and shaved it down, and now there's no stupid old Bluetooth mic sticking out from under here, which never hooked up to anything, because there was never an aftermarket stereo in here until I put it in here. So I don't even know what that went to. I think it might have been for the old cell phone thing in here. Which leads me to the other thing that I did, which I was a little worried this was going to be a little bit more of a pain than it ended up being. But for the longest time, well, since as long as I've had the van, and honestly since it was brand new, this stupid antenna has been stuck on the windshield here. And I've actually seen this antenna and the same exact thing. It says cell wave. And I actually in a previous video found the amplifier that was underneath the carpet here for this. But this was a super old school cell phone, basically, like a satellite phone or something like that. And you can even, obviously I'm missing a lot of the pieces in this van when I got it, but if you look underneath of the dashboard, where'd it go? Somewhere under here. Maybe it's on this other side. Maybe I'm crazy. Well, I forget where it was, but it's somewhere underneath of here. There was two tiny little plastic holes that were, oh yeah, they're underneath of here, actually. That's where they are. They're underneath on this plastic piece. But anywho, there was little holes drilled there where they, obviously you'd have the receiver or the mic for that. But this was the antenna for it. And I was a little worried because it had this big box that had this cable, literally like a coax cable, but a little bit different. You can kind of see it's not exactly like a coax. It's got a different, like, spade inside there. But this thing was stuck on the inside here, and then this antenna, this floppy antenna, was sticking out here on the outside of this van, looking super dorky, you know, with two freaking antennas going down the road. And this thing every now and then would wiggle and would do this, and I mean, it's so quiet, but I could hear it, and it was just super annoying. And every time you'd wash it, this thing would flip around and just look stupid. And I was a little worried that there was like maybe a hole that was drilled in here like a tiny little hole that actually connected the two. But I kind of figured YOLO, you know, I'm doing this stuff, so I might as well do it. And I should have done it a long time ago because it literally just came right off. I still have to clean off some of the adhesive you can see from here, and obviously all my fingerprints from mashing on the glass. Again, something really kind of stupid, but for me, I'm just kind of very happy to be throwing this thing in the trash because I threw away the box a long time ago, and there was probably like 6 feet of that coax cable just coiled up underneath of there. And honestly, it was tucked up underneath to here. You can kind of see where the carpet still is a little bit pushed up. I did not even know that that was there. I just couldn't even tell. I just figured it was just how the freaking van was until I actually pulled the carpet out for the radio install. And sure enough, there it was. And again, that's in a previous video, so if you want to see that, I think it's probably about 4 videos back. But anywho, it's on there. So I pulled that out. And then the last thing that I'm doing here, you can kind of see I have my dashboard pulled slightly apart. And that is because down there on the floor, my cigarette lighter or my aux power supply has not been working. Hasn't been working since I got the van. And I seem to have power coming out of the wires, so it's not an issue there. And again, you might think, oh, well, I mean, come on, dude. It's just like a freaking fuse. You just, you know, pop the glove box open, which in this case is here. It's underneath that plastic cover. And you would think, oh, yeah, you just replaced the fuse. Like, why is that even worth making a video about? Well, it's because that's not how it is on these Previas. And honestly, it's an old Toyota thing. So as we can see on the back of here, here is the back of the cigarette lighter. And if you look very closely, you've got these two kind of like clips, these crimps, if you will. And there's this like tiny, I mean, here's my thumb for comparison, but there's this tiny wire that goes in between the two spades, if you will. And that is a fusible link. And if you can kind of see here, the fusible link is a little bit worn out and it appears that it's not making contact anymore. And there is, if you can also kind of tell, there's this etched washer that's in between the two spades here. And that's actually, all of that system is the load bearing system for making sure this thing, oh, look at that gorgeous macro shot of my thumb. Oh yeah, look at that. Maybe a thumb model. But anywho, there's videos out there where people have just basically taken that washer out, and that way it's always making contact, and that would fix this thing and I would get power out of this thing again. But I don't like the fact that that would also take out like my fuse, and that, you know, potentially if I was to hook up like an air compressor or, you know, maybe like a fridge on a road trip or something like that, like a small fridge, that it could, you know, short out my dashboard and catch fire. So before I put all this back together, and honestly it's just kind of late, but before I put all that back together, what I am going to do is I'm going to do some research and figure out how to add a fusible link to the wires that were here. I'm thinking that's something that I can do. Otherwise, I'm going to have to rig something up here and kind of extend some wires off that thing. But I do want to add like a mini amp, like a 10 or 15 amp fuse, just to make sure that as I put things back together, it's good to go. And what I like about having a mini fuse is if I do put something in here that's a little bit too strong and it pops that fuse again, I don't have to freaking go with that stupid heat shrink tiny little wire again. I can just, you know, kind of take this thing out with just 3 screws right here. Sorry, right here, and then one underneath of here as well when you open this door up. But I can just take that thing out, pull the tray out, and pop the fuse out. So it becomes like a, you know, 5-minute repair instead of this stupid long ordeal to take the whole thing apart. All right, so I did some research. As you can see, I'm back in the hotel room, so this is a little bit later. But yeah, I did some research, and I actually don't need to add the fuse. So I'm glad that at least I was thinking that way. But I forgot there is actually a fuse in the dashboard for the cigarette lighter, and I think the dash lights and some other stuff. So there is a fusible link there. So really that tiny little wire that's in the back of that is a redundancy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some little screenshots in here to kind of show you what I found on my research. But yeah, good news is I can just pop that washer out, put the 2 plates back together, bolt it back in, and I should be good to go. So that is the last thing that I'm hoping to kind of fix, and I'll probably finish that up tomorrow. The other things that I've just got to do, it's on my to-do list right now, is you can see my roof blower is still pulled apart, and that is mainly because another Previa problem is these little plastic blowers right here and right here wear out. And I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but you can kind of see as I turn these things on, they make noise first off. That one's spinning, that one is not. And I can kind of get it started. But you can see there's some work that needs to be done there. That one seems to work mostly okay, but what kind of sucks is you've got to basically just go inside here, and I'll see if I can get it. I doubt it though, but deep inside there's a dowel, and it literally just, by design, literally just stuck into a rubber grommet that's at the end of this piece, the blower wheel, and they would just grip traction and they would spin, and that's all they would do. There's no bolts or anything holding that thing in. Just it slides on, and obviously that little rubber dowel, or that little O-ring, whatever you want to call it, has worn out over the last 25, 30 years. So you've got to basically just caulk it with some RTV or some silicone and stuff like that, and just get it to seal up enough where it doesn't move around and it grips traction again. And so I've just got to do that. I've got the stuff for it, but I've just got to finish taking this thing apart. You can see some screws here and here, and the same thing on the other side. So I'll finish pulling the rest of that down and seal that up so that, you know, I actually have my blower working again, because this evaporator here does get super freezing cold with the AC working. So I want to make sure that my rear passengers are actually getting that fresh cold air. So that's the next thing. And then the last thing that I have to do, which probably I could have done tonight, is replace my door handle. Now I already have the replacement. I was actually shocked that out of all the weird things that I can't buy wiper blades easily for this van, but I can buy brand new door handles, and they're like really, really, really cheap. So what I just need to do is just need to take the inside of the door apart here, and it looks like it's not too complex. Looks like, you know, well, we got a bolt on the back here, some clips over here, and we just have to attach the cables, put the lock cylinder back in. So yeah, I'll just replace all this. That way I've got a working door handle again. This actually broke in my ownership. Kind of embarrassing. It actually broke when the doors were locked, and my son was in the car, so that was really embarrassing. So we had to actually go in and basically break into the car. Actually, my son was able to do it, really. But yeah, so I'll get that replaced. I can still open it from the inside, which is kind of ghetto. You've got to reach in from the inside, and it's just not fun. Kind of gets back to what I was saying about cheap plastic. So yeah. All right, so that does it for right now. Probably not a super exciting video for some, but if there's anybody out there that actually owns a Previa or is looking to buy a Previa and wants to just kind of know what the like weird little things that you've got to do sometimes as a Previa owner, that's it. Sometimes it's just little stuff. Now, honestly, a lot of that is just the joys of owning an older car, Toyota or not. But none of it's really a big deal. I mean, even the blower thing's not a huge deal. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. But I mean, I think it's cool that for a 1992 van, you know, I've got a roof-mounted AC unit for the rear passengers. So it is kind of cool. I don't know how many vans had that at that time. So yeah, that's it right now. I'm loving the wheels. I'm loving the window tint. I'm loving being able to haul the van around. The oil change was great on it that I did recently. So it's actually driving really well. I don't have any major complaints. So that is it for my kind of driver's report at this time. Hope you all enjoyed this. Thanks and have a great day.